The year I got married. I had my uterus removed for my husband who was determined to dinks, double income, no kids. And 20 years later, on the day of the Grant Corporation equity distribution meeting, my husband, who had been determined to dink with me for 20 years, led a child to the stage. This is my son, Grant Jr. Today I am transferring 99 of the Grant Corporation property into his name. As I watched Grant's mouth open and close like a thunderstruck, I was about to go up to the stage and question him, when two security guards quickly took control of me and dragged me out of the room. Before I left the room, I watched Grant, with a loving smile, press the child's hand to sign the property transfer agreement. The security guards threw me into the Grant estate's basement and locked it up and left. People had just walked away when my father called. Lin Yan. We had Huayan to help the Gu family for 20 years. Today is the equity distribution conference. I'm sure Huayan must have given you a surprise, right? Tears could no longer be controlled and broke out. I trembled back to my father's words. Dad, I'm going to divorce Grant. Withdraw all investments in the Gu family. I'm not sure how long it was. I heard the lock of the basement door being opened from outside. Lin Yan, are you okay? Grant's familiar voice sounded from above my head. Once this voice that always put me at ease was like a ghost at the moment. I subconsciously turned my back. A pair of large hands gently covered my shoulders. Lin Yan, don't make a scene. Be good. Go home with me. Huge physical discomfort surged up from my stomach. I started to dry heave uncontrollably, as I pushed away Grant's hand on my shoulder to look at him and sobbed. Grant, shouldn't you give me an explanation? 20 years ago I had my uterus removed for your insistence on the dinks, double income, no kids, idea. And now you're having a child with another woman and giving away the business we've worked so hard for 20 years. On what grounds? Grant's hand that had been frozen on my shoulder dropped, and there was more impatience in the bottom of his gentle eyes. Yan, we were penniless when we first got married. And now that the Gu family has such a big business, how can we do without an heir? I also hid it from you because I was worried that your anger would affect your health. I did it all for your own good. My child is also your child. He will honor you in the future. As for the career, Yan, there is one thing you said that I don't agree with. The reason why the Gu family's career is surnamed Gu. That's because it's something that I put together for 20 years. Technically speaking, it's not ours. It's mine. So I can deal with it however I want. Said this. Grant long sigh. Squatted down and touched the top of my head, tone once again soft down. But, Yan, you and I have lived together for 20 years. Initially those hard times are also you accompanied me over. Grant is not ungrateful people. The rest of my life I will still love you like in the past. The family money you want to spend, how much to spend, how much to say one more word. You can spend as much of the family's money as you want, and am not a man even if I say one more word. Grant subconsciously wrapped me in his arms when he finished speaking. Grant's words made me freeze in place. 20 years ago Grant was the most downtrodden family in Northside slums, relying only on the money he made from running a taxi to support his cancer-stricken mother-in-law and the leukemia daughter left behind by his ex-girlfriend, even though he was running 20 hours a day on the road. Even though he was on the road 20 hours a day, the family was still mounting debts. I met Grant when I accompanied my father to the hospital to inspect the work, and he was kneeling outside the doctor's office in tears, kowtowing and begging the doctor to save his daughter. His head had been bloodied by the hospital's floor, and I was moved with compassion and allowed the hospital to spare his mother and daughter. I was moved by compassion. The hospital waived all the medical fees for his mother and daughter, and arranged for the best doctors for treatment. And ultimately, although it did not save his daughter's life. But his mother finally recovered. In order to protect a young man's self-esteem, all of this was hidden from him. After the incident, I sent someone to arrange for him into the family as a chauffeur. I was at that time. My father was arranged to be in the family's enterprises at the grassroots level of the exercise of Grant H. Grant naturally assumed that I would be a good driver, but he did not know what to do with his daughter's life. Grant naturally thought that I was just an ordinary employee. I naturally did not break down. Over time, Grant and I love secretly, married when my father had discouraged, but I insisted on concealing his identity to marry him. The wedding night. Grant holding his daughter's ashes in front of me in tears. Yan, I'm so sorry. I'm 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 sorry. Yan, I don't want any more children. The only child in my life is now in my hands. I thought of kneeling in front of the doctor's door, count out Grant H. Grant, this fragile man in front of me in his arms. The next day went to the family's hospital to do hysterectomy. After the marriage, Grant all the way to my secret help, founded the Grant Corporation. And the 20 years of time in one fell swoop to become one of the most promising young people in New York City. The most promising young people. Grant didn't know that Grant Corporation was still funded by the Lin family. I never thought that there would be a crisis between Grant and me in our middle age, but now it's not a crisis. It's a collapse of the sky. Tears slipped freely from the corners of my eyes. Perhaps those past made me feel compassionate again. I struggled out of Grant's arms and looked at him. Gu Hanian, even if I plead with you, we can keep the child, but in the future, let the child call me mother, and that woman out there. Woman, just break it off. You can do it and well continue to live the rest of our lives peacefully. Okay. Seeing me say this, the gentleness under Grant's eyes instantly disappeared, and a look of slight disgust surged up. It's true that people who haven't been mothers are just cruel. Do you have any idea what your words just now mean to a child? I can't let my son not have his own mother by his side. Lin Yan, you know that I hate it when people threaten me. I can't break the child's mother, and the child can't call you his mother. As for the rest of our lives, it's not up to you as a housewife in your 50s to say whether or not we'll live peacefully. There are some words I still need to sign for the transfer of property. The basement is cool. You calm down and go out by yourself. After saying that, Grant got up and left without looking back. I looked at Grant decided to leave the back of the throat choked with pain. The phone screen lit up. Is the father's message. Yan, the withdrawal of things need time. You give Dad 5 days time. Dad let his son hand that 10 million of equity into hundreds of millions of debt. If you agree, Dad will do it. Along with the message sent, there is a family of lawyers to prepare a divorce agreement. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and replied to my father. Go do it, Dad. 3 early the next morning, I was awakened by the noise of a child. Looking at the empty seat beside me, I knew that Grant had slept in the study again last night. I rubbed my bleary eyes and just went out the door. A little boy about 10 years old bumped into me head-on. I leaned over and saw that it was the same one who was beside Grant yesterday, Grant Jr. Before I could say anything, a feminine voice came from downstairs. Little Sky, no running around the house. Come to mommy quickly. The child, full of hostility, looked at me, ran in the direction of the sound, ran back. I just came back to God. And the young woman rushed to the face of the 4 eyes of the opposite. No wonder that the boy looks born that good looking. It seems to be inherited from his mother. Grant may have heard this side of the sound, and hurriedly ran over to stand beside the woman. Looked at me. Yan, I forgot to tell you. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry. Yan, I forgot to tell you. I want to let Xiaotian come back to live at home later. She is Xiaoshan's real mother, Emily Rou. I am worried that Xiaotian will have a hard time adapting to it. So I called Cheng Rou together. Being a mother's mood. I hope you can understand. I looked at Grant H. Grant with cold eyes. What do you mean? You want the four of us to live together lovingly from now on, don't you? Grant H. Grant's face instantly collapsed. Lin Yan. In front of Cheng Rou. I'm saving your face. Don't go too far. Cheng Rou and her mother and son have suffered for 10 years outside. Is coming back to live for a while delaying you? Said subconsciously blocked in front of Emily Rou. Emily Rou saw the situation immediately step forward tone through a little aggrieved. Lin Yan's sister. I do not live more. When Xiaotian adapted to ill go. Don't because of me to affect you and Huanian so many years of husband and wife. Although Emily Rou said so on her lips. But her hands subconsciously held Grant H. Grant's small arm. We are all women. Of course I understand that she is soft on the surface and privately provocative of the heart. But it is the men who eat this most. Grant H. Grant a hand to pull Emily Rou into his own arms. Lin Yan. Do you hear me clearly? Yan. Do you hear me? Put away those narrow-minded little thoughts of yours. Cheng Rou still has to accompany the child. You go to the kitchen and cook the meal. Xiaotian loves braised pork belly. Make it lighter in taste. After saying that, she pulled Emily Rou's hand and turned around to greet Grant Jr. Before turning around, Emily Rou looked at me with a very provocative smile under her eyes. By the way, Sister Lin Yan, Xiaotian doesn't eat ginger, so don't put it in when you make it. Grant H. Grant didn't turn around, reaching out his hand to gently caress the top of Emily Rou's head twice. His tone was arrogant. Our Cheng Rou is really the best mom under the sky. Xiaotian is really blessed to have you. After saying that, he looked at Grant Jr. not far away and opened his arms. Xiaotian, hurry up and come to mommy and daddy. Yesterday daddy bought you your favorite action figures. Did you show them to mommy? I looked at the family of three hugging together. A huge bitterness came up. It seems that I have always been the most superfluous one. Since they love each other so much, how can there be any reason not to make it complete? I sighed long and loud in my heart, tied my apron and went to the kitchen. 3 hours later, I did a good job of cooking alone. Grant H. Grant and Emily Rou respectively holding Grant Jr.'s hand sat at the table. Grant Jr. just finished playing in the mud of the hands do not even wash, and straight grabbed a piece of braised pork belly stuffed into the mouth. Always clean Grant H. Grant not only did not say anything, but on the contrary, it is a clean, 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 clean. Grant H. Grant, who always loved cleanliness, not only didn't say anything, but on the contrary, he looked at Grant Jr. with a loving face and couldn't stop smiling. But Grant Jr. spit out the braised pork belly just after he put it into his mouth, and then cried out with a wow sound. Braised pork belly is so bad. It must have a lot of ginger in it. Didn't Mom tell the housekeeper that Xiaotian doesn't eat ginger? Why did she put in so much ginger? I was surprised in my heart. I picked up my chopsticks and tasted it. There was no taste of ginger at all. Grant H. Grant's face instantly turned cold, slanted a glance at me, picked up his chopsticks and put a piece of meat into his mouth, and then overturned the table on the ground, looking at me with hissing rage. Lin Yan, what the hell do you mean? Xiao Rou urged you not to put ginger, even I heard it. Are you deaf? This braised pork belly has such a great ginger flavor. Can't you taste it? I think you're doing it on purpose. Emily Rue sobbed as she calmed Grant Jr. down. Sister Lin Yan, I know you don't like us as a mother and son, but if you have any emotion, take it out on me. Why are you giving a child a hard time? If you don't like to cook this meal, you can just say so. I will do it. Why do you think you have to make it like this? Grant Jr. stared at me fiercely. When he saw me lost in thought, he picked up the dish on the ground and smashed it at me. A stabbing pain swept from the top of my head to my whole body. The sharp edges of the broken dish pierced my skin. I looked at Grant H. Grant with a bitter smile on the corner of his mouth. Grant H. Grant. Speaking out of conscience is really disgusting. I gave birth to Ginger H. Grant. I'm allergic to raw ginger and cooked ginger. Have you forgotten? We've never had ginger in our family meals in 20 years. The air in this room smelled rotten, and with that I removed my apron and turned to leave. For that night my father called me. The divestment thing had progressed most of the way. Just hung up my father's phone. Grant H. Grant called in. Grant H. Grant on the other end of the phone was a little embarrassed. Yin Yan, I'm sorry. It's because I love my son so much. You understand a little bit about being a father's heart. Okay. Tomorrow is Mom's birthday banquet. She has been in poor health all these years. You as a daughter-in-law do not come to the scene. Let outsiders see what is going on. Thinking of what my father had told me on the phone, that I must behave as usual these days, I took a long breath and agreed to Grant H. Grant, who seemed very happy. Which small hotel are you in? I'll pick you up. I glanced at Oriole Bird, who was down on the patio, and returned in a faint voice. No. I'll go there myself tomorrow. After saying that, I hung up the phone. After the phone hung up I received a red envelope from Grant H. Grant, take a taxi tomorrow. Don't take the bus. I clicked on it. $20. Suddenly laughed. Laughed and laughed, tears flowed out. The next morning, I arrived at the Gu family mansion. The guests have already arrived in 7 or 8. Far away from me, I saw mother-in-law arms holding Grant Jr. Smile wrinkles are paved. Grant H. Grant saw me arrive and rushed forward to pull me aside. Yen Yen. Today is Mom's birthday. In order to make the old man happy, that's why I brought Xiao Tian and Xiao in front of the guests. You know what to do. As soon as Grant H. Grant's words fell, mother-in-law pulled Grant Jr. and Emily Rue towards me. Huayan, what are you doing leading this mourner here on the big day? Xiao Tian said that yesterday she even deliberately made things difficult for him. No wonder she couldn't give birth to a child. But it wasn't because of wickedness. What is it to make things difficult for a small child? 20 years. You can't give your man carry on the family line. So what? You still want to make our Gu family completely extinct. Dream on. I looked sideways at Grant H. Grant, who hurriedly stepped forward to appease mother-in-law. Mom, it was all a misunderstanding. Let's not talk about the past. It's your birthday today. You should be happy. Mother-in-law is obviously in a good mood today. After slanting a glance at me, she pulled Grant Jr. and left. Grant H. Grant looked at Emily Rue and then looked at me. Yen Yen. Xiao Rue hasn't seen this kind of scene before. Mom and I will go to entertain the guests. Take Xiao Rue with you and talk to her about the etiquettes that should be in place. After saying that, she turned around and left. Grant H. Grant's back gradually disappeared from sight. Behind her, Emily Rue pulled me down. Lin Yan, if you're smart, you should get out of the Gu family before it's too late. Huan is kind-hearted and can't bear to chuck you out. But you can't be shameless. I'm grateful that you accompanied Huan for so many years of hard times. So we made a deal. If you're willing to get out, You can take out $100,000 as your moral damages. This $100,000 is enough for the rest of your life to be free of worries. I turned around and looked coldly at the young woman in front of me and asked her in a cold voice, Grant H. Grant discussed this with you, of course. Or else how do you think Huan Yan, who is consistently protective of me, would leave me alone with you? I was about to say something else. Emily Rue looked at the champagne fountain behind her and collapsed straight down. She laughed and watched me towards Grant H. Grant, who was not far away, and kept wailing, Huan Yan, come and save me. When Grant H. Grant arrived, a trickle of blood flowed out from under Emily Rue along with the champagne on the floor. Grant H. Grant hissed madly to the people beside him, go on. Call an ambulance. This was followed by a slap on my face. Lin Yan. You evil woman really have no shame. Huan Yan. It wasn't me. Before I could finish, Grant Jr. ran out from nowhere, pointing at me while crying. It's her, Dad. She's the one who pushed Mom. She's the old hag. The bad woman. Daddy hit her. Anger burning madly under Grant H. Grant's eyes. He picked up the bottle on the tabletop and smashed it right on top of my head, and then threw out 2 pieces of paper from his bag and threw them in my face. Divorce papers. Signed them, coldly threw down a sentence, picked up Emily Rue and flew away. For 3 days in a row. Grant H. Grant didn't have any news at all, and on the last day I received a message from my father. Yan. Things, Dad, are done. Deal with clean marital relations. Quietly waiting for a good show to play. I took out the divorce agreement Grant H. Grant threw at me and signed my name, sent it to his company, and then pulled the plug on Grant H. Grant and turned off my cell phone. 5 inside the office on the top floor of Grant Corporation. Grant H. Grant smiled as he looked at the brand new marriage certificate in his hand with Emily Rue, and grabbed Emily Rue and scratched her around the waist. The last step of the transfer of property is finished today, and the marriage is also tied. Double happiness. We should celebrate. Celebrate. Set on the kiss on Emily Rue's lips. Love to the thick of it. The office door was slammed open from the outside. The assistant looked at the scene in front of him, anxious, stomped his feet, turned around and stammered, Mr. Gu, it's not good. Our biggest capitalist withdrew. The capital chain instantly broke, not to say. Those shareholders like crazy. That said, those shareholders are demanding payment like crazy. And now that 10 million in equity has become hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Grant H. Grant was frozen in his seat, and his assistant kept crying, Mr. Gu, think of a solution. Those shareholders have even called the media. If this really goes public, then Grant Corporation will never be able to turn around again. Grant H. Grant pushed away Emily Rue, stepped forward and pulled the assistant by the collar, questioning, how can that be? Although we haven't seen Grant Corporation's biggest investor for 20 years, our friendship is as deep as brothers, and he has helped Grant Corporation come out of many storms. How can he withdraw his investment just like that? The assistant was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He hadn't been with Grant H. Grant for a few years, so naturally he didn't understand the kind of brotherly love that Grant H. Grant was talking about. Mr. Gu, what's so impossible about this? Grant Corporation's lifeblood has been in the hands of that investor for all these years, and when they say divestment, they divest. Think quickly. Did you do something to offend someone recently? Otherwise, why would they withdraw their investment? In an instant, the blood of the whole body rushed to the top of his head. Grant H. Grant realized that all these years under the shelter of that investor, his own life was really too comfortable. No matter what the storm, as long as he made a phone call, things would be solved without any problem. As the helmsman of Grant Corporation, he had lost the ability to analyze and think about the problem to solve the problem. As the head of Grant Corporation, he had lost the ability to analyze and think about problems and solutions. But he suddenly thought of that phone call. He pushed aside Emily Rue, who froze at the side, and opened the safe to find the cell phone that had been in contact with the investors, and found out the number of the only contact in it and dialed it out. And the call that had been answered in a second was now prompting him to turn off his cell phone. And in an instant Grant was struck by a thunderbolt, and he sat dejectedly on the floor and looked at the phone. He sat down on the ground and looked at the cell phone. But at this moment, he did not have time to stare. His assistant hurriedly followed him up, and his speech had a tremor. Mr. Gu, the girl at the front desk can't stop it. Those shareholders have rushed in. You should quickly go out and take a look. Grant rolled and crawled to get up from the ground. But before he could go out, he was surrounded by shareholders and the media. The once smiling shareholders were now like wolves and tigers rushing towards him. Grant, you liar. Pay up. We want to pay up now. Pay up. The reporters also rushed up like crazy, disliking Grant's face with their long guns and short cannons. Mr. Gu, may I ask, Grant Corporation is having a crisis of equity payment. Is it that your annual financial reports are all misrepresentations? Is it that you have been deceiving the shareholders? Mr. Gu, you just held an equity transfer conference some time ago. Are you plotting to cash out and run away as soon as possible? Mr. Gu, Grant Corporation has been in business for 20 years. Is it true that your own ability is very average, and that you are relying on the support of that mysterious investor? Grant looked at the people in front of him, whose mouths seemed to want to eat him, and fell straight into the office with a dizzy spell. 6. Grant woke up to find himself still in the office, the same as before he fainted. The trembling assistant was spinning around beside him. Grant wanted to get up, only to find that he was still paralyzed on the floor. He struggled to raise his head to look up, only to find that Emily Rue was sitting in his chair and looking at him coldly. Grant forced himself to hold back the pain from his body, but he was unable to do so. Grant forced himself to hold back the discomfort coming from his body to look at Emily Rue. Rue, I'm not feeling well. Come and help me, said Grant. Grant looked at Emily Rue and stretched out his hand, but Emily Rue was still sitting on the chair and didn't even move. Grant, you old fox, have done your calculations, haven't you? You transferred all of your crappy equity to my son. And now that equity has turned into hundreds of millions of dollars of debt, you counted on us mother and son, right? Grant looked at the woman in front of him and froze. He suddenly felt a wave of dizziness coming from the top of his head again. His assistant saw this and hurriedly went forward to help Grant. Grant up. Mr. Gu, sister-in-law. Let's not talk about this right now. The shareholders left first when they saw that you fainted. So let's take this time to think of a solution. The assistant's words made Grant sober up a lot. He sat on the sofa and took a long breath. Looking at Emily Rue, he said in a cold voice, if you don't feel comfortable, then transfer the shares to me again. As soon as she said that, Emily Rue threw an agreement to Grant. Grant, it's already drafted. Sign it. Grant froze when he looked at the stock transfer agreement, but after a few seconds, he still chose to sign his name. Emily Rue finally let go of her heart when she saw this, and with her curly posture, she didn't even look at Grant. Grant again turned around and left the office, and before she left, she looked at the assistant and coldly said, "Don't call me that in the future," she said. "Don't call me sister-in-law in the future. Who is your sister-in-law when I'm so young?" Grant, I want to divorce you. Grant. I want to divorce you. I also want to sue you for cheating on your marriage, said, slammed the office door and left without looking back. Grant H. Grant and his assistant were the only two people left in the large office. Emily Rue's departure made Grant H. Grant's mind clearer. He thought of what his assistant told him before he fainted. He reviewed all the things he had done these days, and he didn't realize where he had offended that godlike investor, and then scratched his head and looked at his assistant. I will divorce you. I will sue you for cheating. Scratched his head and looked at his assistant. Go. Spend a heavy amount of money to investigate as well. Find out the identity of that investor and tell me. The assistant answered and turned around to go out the door, muttering in his mouth as he left. If I had known this, what did I do in the first place? This boss is really comfortable. These words did not escape Grant H. Grant's ears. But at this moment Grant H. Grant has no mood to reprimand subordinates. After all, in such a moment, willing to do things for him is already concerned about the old friendship. And what's more, what he said is not wrong. He has really been too comfortable these years. Even a little sense of crisis is gone. Grant H. Grant has not been so anxious for a long time, because those monkey shareholders and the media, no matter which one, will not leave him too much time. A sharp pain in his head again. This is the problem left by his overthinking when he was young. In the past, when Lin Yan was around, she would always prepare tonic medicine for him. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered the woman Lin Yan, who had accompanied him for 20 years. In the past, no matter how big the conflict between them, as long as he had a slight discomfort, Lin Yan would always put down her anger to come over to take care of his body. Especially these days, she would not let go of her anger. In the past, no matter how many conflicts they had, as long as his body was slightly uncomfortable, Lin Yan would always put aside her anger and take care of his body. Especially in these years, his heart was not good. Lin Yan had already wrapped up the big and small things in the family. In the past, Lin Yan's way of taking care of him was in stark contrast to Emily Rue's attitude. For the first time, Grant H. Grant missed Lin Yan a little, and suddenly he thought of the old saying, a husband and wife are still together from childhood. He suddenly thought of the old saying, it's better for a couple to grow up together. Thinking of this, Grant H. Grant took out his cell phone and dialed the number that he knew so well. Unexpectedly, the phone that was always picked up instantly was out of service. He found Lin Yan's number and sent a message to her, but he found that he had already been blackballed by Lin Yan. Grant H. Grant laughed bitterly. Yes, Lin Yan had divorced himself. Grant H. Grant smiled bitterly. Yes, Lin Yan has already divorced himself, and moreover, he has done things so decisively. Lin Yan still have any reason to treat him as in the old days. Suddenly a burst of rapid footsteps interrupted Grant H. Grant's thoughts. He looked at the time, and realized that he was sitting on the sofa in the office like this for 5 hours, and the assistant panicked and pushed his way to the office, but he did not know how to get there. The assistant pushed open the door of the office in a panic, looking at Grant H. Grant came up for air and said, Mr. Gu, check, have found. Has been to our Grant Corporation to invest in the chairman of the enterprise's name is Leonard Z. Lin, Grant H. Grant violently bounced up from the sofa. The top of the head again came a burst of heart-piercing pain. But these he can't care about. He looked at the panicked assistant in front of him, sternly questioned. What is it called? Leonard Z. Lin. By the way, in the director relationship of that company, there is a person whose name is surprisingly Lin Yan. Mr. Gu. This is too coincidental. I remember that your last wife was named Lin Yan. Wasn't it? Grant H. Grant fell head over heels on the sofa. It wasn't that he didn't have his suspicions all these years. but looking at Lin Yan in such a quiet and simple manner. How could he ever have thought that she would be a girl out of a big family? He didn't think that it was really her. Grant heard the news. Somehow suddenly came to the spirit. And Lin Yan and nearly 20 years of time. This woman is willing to put down the body to accompany him through so long hard days. And for his selfish ideas remove the uterus. The things in this world Grant is not sure of. But the only thing in Lin Yan's love of the world, he is not sure of. But he is not sure of. Grant had never been so sure about Lin Yan's love for him. He knew that he had done something wrong, but Lin Yan had also loosened her lips that day, and as long as he was ruthless and abandoned the child that he had been keeping outside, he believed that Lin Yan would surely forgive him again. With this in mind, Grant straightened his disheveled hair, grabbed his car keys and headed for the legendary Lin family mansion. 7 After 20 years again back to Lin family mansion. Looked at the once familiar scenery, heart cannot help but sigh. These years in order to take care of Grant's self-esteem. Worried about my trail was found by him. This since childhood, grew up in the place I actually did not come back once. Sometimes think about it is really laughable. Cannot figure out Grant as an ordinary. I can't figure out what kind of drug a normal man like Grant has given himself. So much so that he has paid so much for him. Was it the kneeling in front of the doctor's office 20 years ago? Or the way he held his daughter's ashes and cried on their wedding night? Or that kind of desperation to climb up the exuberant vitality? I cannot think. Then simply do not think about it. The moment I opened the door, I saw my father reading on the couch, and in the kitchen busy mother. As I left 20 years ago, my father slowly put down the book in his hands. My mother panicked and wiped his hands towards me, ran towards me, a hand in my arms, and constantly rubbing my back, and then opened his mouth when the tone of voice has been a tremor. Yen, mother's good daughter. These years outside the really aggrieved. Good in the future on the good. There is your father in. I see who still dare to bully you. Father looked at the tearful mother on the sofa and laughed out loud. Look at you, this wifey. It's good that your daughter is home. Why are you still crying away? If you keep crying, the ribs in the pot will get mushy. I sniffed and patted my mother's back. Mom. I seem to have really asked about the vague smell of paste. My mother patted my shoulder, smiled and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and scolded. It's been 20 years. Still playing tricks on mom with your dad. Ganged up on mom. After saying that, she turned to look at me while going back to the kitchen. Looking at my mother's old back, a burst of heartache came up. I really am not a good daughter. 20 years ago, bent on leaving home, not only let my father so old but also to worry about the affairs of the group, and now outside the aggrieved, but also to bother them again to worry about me. Father seems to be able to see my mind. Put down the book in his hand and slowly came over to take my shoulder. Yen, don't have a thought burden. As long as mom and dad are in one day, you are our baby. 20 years ago when you left from home, dad has always been doing this kind of preparations. Mom and dad of course hope that this day will never happen again, but it really happened. It's nothing. Just dad moving around. It's not a big deal. It's just a matter of dad moving his lips. My father's words made me cry out uncontrollably. I know. This thing where it will be a simple matter of moving your mouth. Years of intertwined relationships. If not for my father's careful maintenance of these 20 years, how could it be hidden so well? And in the aftermath of the incident, such a quick response. But I know that he said this is certainly do not want to see me sad. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and looked at my father. Don't worry, Dad. I'm sure that I will never see you again, he said. Don't worry, Dad. No matter how. I'm also industrial tycoon Leonard Z. Lin's daughter. I won't be crushed so easily. You and Mom don't worry for me. My words caused my father to let out a hearty laugh. and I knew that he should be able to rest a little bit easier. 8. I thought that Grant and I would never see each other again in this life. A woman like that who was willing to give birth to a child for him outside without a name must also be a silly woman, no matter if Grant was rich or poor, he would surely stay by his side. But that night, my mom and dad and I had just eaten dinner, when the maid of the house came over to inform Master, outside the door a gentleman surnamed Gu has been standing for 3 hours, hesitant to leave, insisting on seeing the eldest young lady. My father was still joking and laughing, face instantly cold, was about to wave his hand and let the servant rebuff it. I thought for a moment, looked at my father and said in a deep voice, Dad, I'll go and meet. After all, there are 20 years of entanglement. Always have to meet to say clearly. Mother gave his father a look. Father helplessly looked at me full of worry. Go, Yan, but do not leave the yard. You can rest assured that Mom and Dad at home. No one dares to bully you. I smiled and answered out the door. But is a few days gone. I did not expect Grant even pale into this look. Stubble did not clear. Clothes messy. The bottom of the eyes are all red blood. I know. I think recently because of my father's handiwork. He must be a lot of work. See me out. Grant's emotions suddenly agitated. Could not wait for the maid to open the door. He was from the car down towards my direction, rushed over. After seeing me, a hand in my arms, voice because of the excitement of some slightly trembling. Yan, I'm sorry. After all, I did you wrong things. The past 20 years of the things that happened to me have figured out. Is that you've been in the secret to help me? If there is no you, there is no me. Grant today. I came today especially for the father's work. He must have been a lot of work. Because of his father's work. If it wasn't for you, there would be no Grant for me today. I came here today to apologize to you. Yan, will you forgive me? I still remember what you said that day. You said that if I let go of that woman outside, just bring the child back. You are still willing to forgive me. Today I came here to tell you, I don't want the child. I just want you to. I gently pushed away the body in front of me. Grant. Looking at the face of this man who has been with me for 20 years, I felt so strange at this moment. Gu Hanian, if I am not the one who lifted up Grant Corporation all these years, and if I am the housewife whose appearance is gradually getting old as I am approaching 50 years old, will you still be willing to come over and apologize to me today? In fact, when Grant appeared outside the courtyard, I knew that what he wanted was only the hundreds of millions of dollars of wealth that he had lost, but never the love that we had been living together for the past 20 years. Grant obviously did not think that I would ask this question, and his body froze in place like that. Gu Hanian, in fact, you and I have had the answer to this question in our hearts for a long time. Already have the answer. 20 years. I realize today that I don't know you well enough. 20 years ago, I always thought that you were deep in love, bloodthirsty, a man. So at that time, even if you were from a bad background, penniless, but I could still defiantly keep by your side. That's because of the courage that your character gave me. But today you are profit-seeking, selfish, timid and afraid. Or rather, you have always been like this in these 20 years, but it's only because of Dad's guardianship that you seem so honorable. Gu Hanian, I, Lin Yan, can't look at a man like this, so leave the last bit of your self-respect, and let's bring our relationship to a less doggerel ending. Okay. Gu Hanian, you know how important Grant Corporation is to me. I can't live without Grant Corporation. I will die without Grant Corporation. For a moment, I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. I didn't understand exactly why I had looked at such a man in the first place. Gu Hanian, 20 years ago you also had nothing. Now it's just for you to go back to the beginning. Just think of it as a dream for these 20 years. And now it's time to wake up for both you and I. As for is dead or alive, these words you don't need to speak to me. You are an adult. Should be responsible for your own life. After saying that, I turned around and left. When I went out, I was thinking, if Grant would have acted like a man and not mentioned those equity shares and those vain properties. I was really worried that I would have forgiven him in a moment of impulsiveness. But today's Grant would only make me feel nauseous. Lin family mansion is not a place for Grant to run wild. So I was worried that I might forgive him in a moment of impulse. But today's Grant only makes me feel sick. Grant is not a place for Grant to run wild. So as soon as I turned around, the security guards grabbed Grant and threw him out the door, and the doors of Lin family mansion will never be open for him again. Once again got the news about Grant was 3 days later. Grant Corporation, a business empire that had been maintained for nearly 20 years, finally collapse overnight in just a few days. Grant at the age of 50. Grant at the age of 50 years with hundreds of millions of dollars of debt. I heard that Emily Rue had disappeared. Sent Grant a paternity test before she left. That boy named Grant Jr. was not Grant's son at all. Grant overnight, all the hair white. Finally in the morning of an unknown person. In the morning of the day. 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 Grant, who had grayed all his hair overnight, finally leapt off the roof of the Grant Corporation building with his mother, who was over 80 years old, one morning when no one knew he was there. When my father told me these news, my hands paused in chopping vegetables. Things are unpredictable. I had envisioned so many kinds of endings for Grant and me, but never imagined it would be this tragic. The Oriole bird that used to come to us when we were young seemed to be parked on the patio again, and it was as if I was back to my childhood again. Wan, goodbye. This is a sinful relationship. I hope that we won't see each other again in the next life. End.